Now everyone's waiting for alt season. You see it literally everywhere. The posts, the charts, the lot, the content, whatever, right? It's there. And it's always soon. QE's coming. We're going to make it. Yeah, let's talk about that, I think. Are we just in a market where it no longer exists as it was in the past? Which seems quite likely at the minute. Now, this isn't FUD, it's just reality. The market seems like it's evolved. The 2021 playbook is null and void. But let's break it down properly because I think we need to look at some factors. This will help massively if you can like the video. It means an awful lot if you do. It helps it get pushed further. And comment, what do you think? Are we in an evolved new market? Now, first and foremost, I want to talk about the obvious in the room. There is some serious capital coming into the game. And we're not talking retail, we're not talking hype, we're talking about real monies. Now, I have a caveat to this in a way that why isn't 44,000 Ethereum into a purchase of that, in my nature, quite aggressive, not moving the needle much. That's what my biggest, that's a bit odd. So yes, there is a lot of situations around Tom Lee's backing this quite heavily. I know, I get it. But I do often wonder, why not? Why has this not sent Ethereum to $10,000 yet? You get my point? But again, the exact same logic is with strategy, how they have managed to somehow, I don't know how, I don't quite understand the mechanics of it, built a massive stack of Bitcoin in their corporate treasury, utilizing their stock price, utilizing their shareholders, whatever, to enable them to buy a chunk of Bitcoin, which will probably play out pretty well. But again, it's the same logic, isn't it? A large company buying Bitcoin aggressively, not rotating, not trading, just accumulating, right? But why isn't the price going up? It makes you wonder. But at the same time, we can always talk about the obvious in the room is why have everyone's like price predictions, such as Tommy Lee, Michael Saylor, even Arthur Hayes, and other people, been really wrong? And yeah, you could argue structure, fundamentals, the analysis around the on-chain data regarding the obvious in the room is we are buying a shit ton of this, a shit ton of that, but why isn't the price moving? So it feels like something's not quite right, in my opinion. So obviously we've seen gold do well, silver do well, platinum. We've seen obviously oil being a bit volatile at certain points. We've obviously seen more importantly, the NASDAQ, Google, whatever, flying to the moons at certain points. But my biggest concern is the fact that all of these, price corrections and price predictions and all this kind of stuff have been totally wrong. Totally wrong. Like, we're talking miles out. And even my own sort of area where I was like happy to take profit, we just nibbled into it, just about. Other than that, it's not been great, realistically, when you think about how everyone was expecting 250,000, 300,000 by the end of this year. We are at New Year's Eve right now, if you're wondering. So, yeah, it's not looking good. And we can talk about how it's all gone wrong. And the thing is, I think this market has changed a little bit. But we'll talk about that now. Because what I want to talk about, kind of, and I know it's going to go a little bit deep, I do apologize, is how we've all been wrong, pretty much, haven't we? I don't mind admitting that. But that's the thing, right? When we talk about the old cycle, 2021, should we go back to it? Should we have a little look? Boom, down here somewhere. Long time ago, if you remember it. Crazy. I don't know what that circle's about, by the way. Probably a bit of old Patreon noise. But anyways, let's talk about it. So when Bitcoin would do something, it would run. Go. Bitcoin dominance would then fall, and then capital will spill into altcoins. That was the 2021 playbook. You could have bought anything and made some money. Not loads of money, but some money. If you picked the right one, you would have made a lot of money, right? That's not happening. And it hasn't happened since 2023, you could probably argue, realistically, where we've had a bit of a rotation. Now, when Bitcoin does go up currently, Bitcoin dominance has been going up with it, which I know I talk about it quite a lot, has been very, very different. So obviously, you could talk about the bear market 2028 into 2029, and then this was the 2021 bull market. Whoom, bang. But what's happened here? Well, we've just juggled, and that's what's happened. We haven't had that aggressive fall, that drop, and that kind of rotation, obviously. So now what we're seeing, as I say, is dominance is going up with it. When Bitcoin pulls back, we're not getting any rotation into any sort of altcoin at all. They just bleed and get worse. This is why we're getting historic low levels in everything. And this is telling me something important, right? Where capital, for my opinion, is we're not rotating. Simple as that. We're not doing that risk curve element. There's people not wanting to risk their money. Now, there's a couple of caveats to this. One, we've got token unlocks and VC distribution and new launches. There's too many of them. There's too much of that going on. We've obviously got probably people that I think, in my opinion, this is my own thought process, by the way, not my, opinion of other people, but people made it. Like for me, I looked at my Bitcoin stack and thought, I don't need to sell that for altcoins. I don't need to risk that money. I don't have to do it anymore. And I know that sounds quite corny and a bit, arrogant in a way, but if you've made a load of money on Bitcoin, why, and if it does stabilize at that price point, why do you need to sell it to make more? You don't. And I keep seeing people doing this, where they're rotating their Bitcoin into altcoins to try and make even more, when realistically you probably already made it. And I see a lot of people on X do that, and I wince at the thought process of it. But yes, what we do have here is billions and billions and billions of coins, tokens, dollars, whatever, getting put onto the supply of, the chain, the blockchain, and they're getting sold, and the liquidity is picking it up. So demand is only in Bitcoin currently. Everything else is getting shut off. Everything else is just getting bled. And that's why supply has exploded everywhere else. That's why market capitalization is slowly creeped up, but the price really hasn't really followed it realistically, in my opinion. And that's what's made it hard. And this isn't an issue about timing. It's about structure. It's about, there's too many of the shit coins. There's too much of crap. There's too much of things that are getting bled. And you look at the total market cap here. This is the bull market. But what is it? Well, no. What it is actually showcasing that the supply of the market has actually increased because there's more tokens. If you do the maths, it's quite simple. Doesn't add up though, does it? No. So yeah, what do you think? Millions more tokens here versus here, and the value isn't much higher. We got a bit of a problem, and that problem is quite obvious. But in terms of the psychology, and I want to be absolutely crystal clear, I want an alt season. I want this market to do something, and I do. But this is where I think people have got caught. They're waiting for the exact same playbook that's happened, but it isn't going to happen because I don't think markets repeat in that way. Crypto, I think, has grown up a little bit. We're behaving more like traditional markets. Realistically, when we talk about, you could probably argue Bitcoin as the main thing. And probably the thing that people forget is stable currencies. That's a massive, massive factor in this as well. Not everything will pump. This is why we're not getting alt seasons, because random things just pop off. Zcash, for example. XMR, for example. Yeah, you could probably argue the gold ones are a bit obviously tied to gold, obviously, but everything else, not remotely interested at all, are they? And you've got narratives. The narratives are getting weaker and probably less likely to happen nowadays because they're probably all blown up anyways. And obviously, yeah, capital concentration. But the belief that everything's going to go up at one point is fucking dumb. It doesn't work like that. It's like buying a stock that was great in like 2012 and all of a sudden it's going to come good again because it happened fucking 14, 15 years ago. No, come on, think. But what I do think is, that it's quite obvious, I think it's just like any stock market. It's like any market. You will get a runner. You will get something that will run. Something that will go for some weird reason. News related, liquidity related, interest related, hype related, retail driven. Not everything though, because there's not enough juice to do it. It's selective, it's narrative driven, and obviously it's temperamental and temporary. And if you're not adapting to that, you are playing the wrong game. Bitcoin is the king. That is where the most of the story is, the value of it. And anyways, look at silver recently. Look at gold recently. Why are they going up? Well, that's usually a bit of an issue, usually, with metals. But that won't last forever. Now, I talk a lot about this on my Patreon, about how this market will give you obvious kind of information. And what this means is for alt seasons is probably not coming anytime soon. Realistically, no one is waiting for the waiting, if that makes sense, right? So when we talk about this is a stable currency dominance. And this is where like rotations are real, because this is showcased when money or assets such as stable currency is going in assets and out of assets, right? If this is going up, it means the higher percentage of cryptocurrencies, i.e. stable currencies, are in stables. They are not live. They are waiting, right? So quality matters again here because timing is more than anything. If this is going down, that would be risk on. Will altcoins pump? Well, what we've seen in the past, not really. We've failed many times here. The best one was this one. Boom, go all the way down to here. Remember it? You probably do. Then we had this one here. Guess what this one was? Inauguration. And then we had this little flurry in the summer. Didn't really work out. That was a tariff bounce. But what's happened now? We're going up to the moon. So what I've got here is a plan for to consider my DCA, because if we are up there, there's probably a high chance, realistically, unless altcoins have really died, Bitcoin's going to be lower because probably people are flapped a little bit and they're holding stables. Just saying. Just saying. Not good. But I want to end with this bit here. And it's quite obvious, right? We look at like the Ethereum.d, quite low still. We look at, say, other/BTC, very low still. The question is not, isn't, it's not will altcoins pump ? Is it? It's which ones will, when, and why. Why will they pump? So yeah, the one thing that I will say here, I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent. If you are trading narrative, short-term stuff, I do this on Blowfin. Now, obviously, there's a link below to this. Jump in, you get 20% back on fees, and it's open to the UK if you want to use futures. Don't go balls deep on your leverage, just go low leverage. But what you'll find is a lot of things on any exchange may well have a little bit of a cyclical moment, whether it's going long or short. This is how you need to navigate the market if you want to play the game of I want to make money in crypto. I think it's evolving to the point of Bitcoin is the king. You've got the obvious of Ethereum, maybe XRP and a couple of others, and the rest of it's just penny stocks, shitcoins, shite that you should be trading. You should not be emotionally attached to it. You should have absolute stop losses, ways of taking profit, and play the game because they move so much. Like 10, 20% moves in a day. You don't need high leverage for that. Keep it simple. And if you want to see what I am doing in the market and how I'm navigating it, what I'm holding, what I'm looking to trade, what I'm avoiding, what I'm thinking for 2026, jump in Patreon. There's videos 3 to 4 times a week. There's a Discord, there's courses, there's everything all included within that. Very, very cheap and affordable. But more importantly, it's a support mechanism. It allows you to get support from community members and it will help you massively, I think. But yeah, I just think everyone, for some reason, is waiting for an alt season that may well be very, very different to what the past was. The market does not reward waiting if you're buying shit. It rewards, I think, understanding and being able to adapt. That's all for me. I hope you have a fantastic new year. 2026 could be interesting. Try not to get too caught up in the emotions of it. And yeah, if you've not yet done so, watch this video. This may help you. See you soon.